Welcome to the BuiltOnAir podcast, the variety show for all things Airtable. In each episode, we cover 4 different segments. It's always fresh and different, and lots of fun while you get the insider info on all things Airtable. Our hosts and guests are some of the most senior experts in the Airtable community. Join us live each week on our YouTube channel every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and join our active community at BuiltOnAir.com. Before we begin, a word from our sponsor, On2Air Backups. On2Air Backups provides automated Airtable backups to your cloud storage for secure and reliable data protection. Prevent data loss and set up a secure Airtable backup system with On2Air Backups at On2Air.com. As one customer, Sarah, said, having automated Airtable backups has freed up hours of my time every other week and the fear of losing anything. Longtime customer David states, On2Air Backups might be the most critical piece of the puzzle to guard against unforeseeable disaster. It's easy to set up, and it just works. Join Sarah, David, and hundreds more Airtable users like you to protect your Airtable data with On2Air Backups. Sign up today with promo code BuiltOnAir for a 10% discount. Check them out at On2Air.com. And now let's check out today's episode and see what we built on air.
Welcome back, everybody, to the BuiltOnAir podcast. We are back for season 22. This is episode 1 after being off for a few weeks. Good to be back with everybody. Myself, Camille, and Alli with us today. We have special guest Ashley Guckert. Is that how you say it?
Guckert.
Guckert. Okay. Welcome, Ashley. We'll learn more about Ashley and her story later in the show. I'll walk us through what we're going to be doing today. We always spend an hour keeping you up to date on all things Airtable. We start with our Around the Bases, lots of news and updates since we've been gone last 5 weeks or so. So we'll get you caught up on that. Then a quick shout out to our sponsor, On2Air Backups. And then we're going to learn about Ashley and her story and how she found herself in her current role and in the ecosystem of Airtable. And then she's going to showcase some of her work, how to do quote processing workflows around that. And then quick highlight on our community, BuiltOnAir, and how you can join. And then we'll wrap up with Alli walking through some new functionality in interfaces, dynamic number coloring on that. So that will wrap up today's show. Excited for it. So first, with our Around the Bases, like I mentioned, we've been gone for a while. First wanted to give a shout out to our friends at the Facebook Airtable community. They just hit their 7-year mark. So congratulations to Ben and Chris and that community. And so, yeah, that is cool there. It's a good resource to get some help and find other like-minded people in addition to our BuiltOnAir community. I'm going to skip this one. This one actually goes towards the end. Okay, so a couple things, highlights about Airtable first. We'll start there. So they were just named part of the top Tech 30, the 2025 Enterprise Tech 30. So that is pretty cool for Airtable and the top 30 enterprise tech software companies to keep an eye on. So congratulations, Airtable. That one. There's an event. We were talking before the show. There's an event tomorrow. If you're going to be there, it's in New York. I think it's at capacity, so it might be too late to get tickets. But if you are going to be there, I will be there. So feel free to find me. Would love to meet you and talk to you. And so, yeah, anybody that's going to be in New York, let's connect. Let me know in the comments you're going to be there. This is also another one about it. Who else is going to be there? Some of the speakers. They also hosted an event in London, ProductCon. So if you went to that one, love to hear your experience there. It looks like they walked through Product Central, which I'm still wanting to get like a demo of. So if anybody's demoed Product Central, I'd love to get your feedback on it. I don't know, anybody who's seen it?
Only at the last Airtable conference, but it was kind of high level. Not too much detail at the time, but I also don't think it was released yet. It was like a launch announcement, I think. So maybe there's more information available today, but right now it seems like it's definitely a separate product from just having it like an Airtable account where you can make a workspace and all that. And it's similar but different is the sort of summary of it all. There's a lot of things that you can display in an interface that you can't in a regular interface, but they're not one-to-one compatible. So it's interesting to see this being released, and I wonder how much, if anything, would be coming from their Product Central and moving into the larger space of Airtable so that we can have all those features there too.
Yeah. So yeah, let us know if you were there in London for ProductCon. Another one, Howie Liu, CEO, was at Future of Enterprise AI at HumanX 2025. So here's a link we'll provide in our show notes if you want to watch his presentation talking about the future of Airtable and AI, things like that. So that is another one to keep an eye on. Here are 6 predictions for product teams from Airtable regarding AI and how product is going to change. Every company will become an AI company or risk disruption. Successful product leaders will own and skyrocket revenue. First mover advantage might actually be a disadvantage. Product development will be less about having the right answers and more about asking the right questions. Teams that fail to automate generalist tasks will lose. Expertise is critical currency in the age of AI. And teams that fail to automate, winning teams will use AI to process and action customer feedback. So there's your AI predictions for the future for product teams. Here's another one. If you like the technical aspect of Airtable, they have an engineering blog, and it looks like they had an update. They don't update this too often, but they kind of open up behind the scenes of what is going on at Airtable and how it's built. So this talks about kind of some of their data management aspect and how it works. So if you'd like to know how Airtable is built under the hood, this is a good insight into that.
Yeah, I think I might want to take a look at this.
Yeah, I'm not familiar if Star Rocks is a product or just what they call, let's see, it looks like it's a product. I'm not familiar with that one
either.
But they've got their data lakes and yeah, kind of interesting. So
very cool.
They also, let me bring back Ashley. There she is. They also launched a new newsletter. I don't know if you saw this. So there's a new newsletter called the Airtable Effect. Great ideas meet powerful tools, latest launches, tips, and inspiration each month. So if you want to hear directly from them, and it looks like they might be doing interviews and things like that. So see how that turns out. But yeah, you can subscribe to their new newsletter. And another one, they officially launched the AI App Builder certification. So if you're looking to get more certification, I do not have this one. I should look at getting certified here. That's live. I don't know if Jen was involved with this one. We'll have to ask her.
I'm not sure. I would think though. Wouldn't be surprised if she was.
Yeah. So, okay. So yeah, there's more certifications that you can get. You can now get an AI App Builder certification. Going through these quickly. Okay, this is one of the big ones that came out while we were away. Airtable has a new community. So streamlined product idea submissions, new onboarding resource sections, new point system, refreshed look and feel. Let me go to it. So here is the new Airtable community. I don't know if you spent any time on it. Initial reactions?
A little. I haven't spent that much time on it. My overall feeling, it's better than the last one we had, but still not the best that we've had. I think I like the original community platform the best, but it's easier to find things, I think, with this one, and it's easier to have long, complex answers with this one. So it is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. Curious, let us know your feedback.
I will say the point system started over, so
oh really?
I'm upset about that.
Really?
Yeah, everyone's points started over. So you retain any, like, if you were marked as the solution on any post, you still have all those solutions. So right now my account has like 1,000 badges, but no points. It's very funny.
Oh man,
That's
unfortunate for some of the old timers. So it looks like you can start a new challenge. So this is your chance. If you weren't involved previously, you can get involved now.
You got the room to touch up.
Yeah.
Feels very whose line is it anyways? Like
Yeah. So one way is they are accepting product feedback now. There wasn't previously, I don't know that there was like a formal way to give product feedback. So that is a part of this. So you can submit. Let's see, it says there's a submission form here and you can fill this out. And it looks like an Airtable form. And so, so we'll see if they share this. I don't know if they'll actually create like a roadmap, a public roadmap. That would be interesting.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, that would be nice. So we'll see what they do with the new features. So let us know how you are liking the community at Airtable. Okay, moving on. Now we'll talk about a few other systems out there. Some updates. Fill out forms, a very popular third-party form, just hit their 1 million form created. Congratulations to Fill Out. So that is cool. It's very popular. These guys are doing a lot of interesting stuff.
They move very fast. I like it.
Yeah. Another one, Glide Apps. They just launched an app marketplace. So this is kind of interesting. If you're an app developer, want to build plugins or extensions, Glide now has a marketplace that you can do that. So that's interesting. I might have to look into that for OnToAir.
Mm-hmm.
Another one, Notion. If you're a Notion fan, this is actually true. The CEO, Ivan Zhao, I don't feel like I've seen much of him out there. So he's not very public. So he did a podcast. So if you want to hear what Notion is up to, what I thought was interesting, it piqued our interest, is Airtable actually sponsors this podcast. So they were actually sponsoring, and it wasn't just Airtable, it was Product Central was sponsoring this podcast. So that was interesting.
Very.
Yeah, so down here, Product Central. So if you're interested in Notion, we'll put a link to that one. No Loco, which is a popular third-party portal application, now has a free tier. So they announced that at the end of February. So if you want to try out No Loco, you can now get started for free. Check that out. Okay, let's see. Our friend June, he came on the show last season, I believe, maybe the season before. His application is some shortcuts for Apple, for iPhone. It's now in the App Store. So if you're looking to do some automations with your iPhone and Airtable iOS, you can do that. So check that out in the App Store. And one more. This was interesting. I don't recall. I'm a Zapier customer, and maybe I got an email about this, but I didn't realize this till I was reviewing our show notes that somebody broke into its code repository and may have accessed customer data. So there was a data breach of Zapier. If you're a customer of them, be aware of that. But maybe I don't read every email that I get from Zapier, but maybe they did notify us, but I don't remember getting an email about this.
I don't remember either.
So,
and I don't see it. I'm searching for it in my inbox right now. I don't see
interesting.
it. Well,
it did not affect any Zapier database infrastructure. So a subset of it. So maybe it only impacted a few people. Only notified those people. Interesting.
no.
All right, so that's Zapier. Okay, so let's talk about Airtable updates. There actually has been quite a few. So when we last left in February, we talked about this one, interface customization and managed app. Let's just kind of go through the list. Per field, editability, and list view. I think we did mention this one on our last show. So you can now set per field editability on a list view in interfaces.
I love that one.
Yeah.
That is hugely beneficial.
Yeah. Okay, now we're getting into some of the new ones. Although this one I think we knew about, it just wasn't announced. And this is what Alli is going to be showing us later in the show. So field level coloring for number fields and interfaces. So we'll dive deep into that later. Create new records from bulk attachment uploads. So now you can create new records in bulk in a base grid and gallery view. So is this only at the data level, or can you do this in the interface?
Oh, I don't actually know. I think it's at the data level. I don't know.
Let's see.
I don't know how they would do it.
This is showing at the data level, so that would be my guess.
Yeah, I don't know how they would like elegantly implement it in interfaces. It would be a little bit different.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. So if you have a ton of attachments, you can drag them all in and it'll create one record per attachment. That's my understanding. Yeah.
That's great. It used to be really the only way to do it would be individually drag them, or you could write a script after dragging them all into one record. You could have a script break it out into individual ones, but this is huge time saver.
Yeah. And so now bulk upload will always create separate records for each file, which attachment field to populate. Okay. So that is kind of cool. Okay, this is an interesting one. Display external images and interfaces. I know we've talked about this in the BuiltOnAir community. So if you have, we might show this in a future segment, but if you have like a URL that points to a stored image somewhere, you can have a URL field and put the URL there, and then you can actually display the image in your interface. So that's pretty handy.
Yeah.
Something I'd want to test. This photo implies that there's attachment comments enabled. Where are those stored? How are they doing that?
Interesting.
Wondering that as well.
My understanding is that this is only an interface feature. It's not like in the base view it's not a display option for the URL field. So I'm wondering if that would have been a more straightforward approach if you made URL fields have two display modes, one being text and the second being as an attachment, to make it more consistent, because from an API perspective and all of that, I wonder, are those comments accessible, or will they ever be, or all of that?
I don't recall. I experimented with this. I don't recall there being the ability to comment on the image, but it wasn't good.
It wouldn't be the first time they chose a screenshot of something that isn't actually possible to do.
Right.
Yeah, that would be my guess. This is marketing purpose only.
It's so silly.
Yeah. Okay, next one. Portals. Portal is now public. So we've talked about this in the past, but you can create a somewhat tailored login page, and you can get people outside your business. This does. Let's see, what tiers does this work on?
Business and
team.
team.
Business, and enterprise. Interesting. So even at the team.
It's nice that it's available for team. I wouldn't have expected it to be available for team, but it is nice that it is, because it's effectively what it gets you. It allows you to invite more people at a lower cost to your interfaces. The one problem I have so far is that it sounds like you can only invite an individual user. Like, you can only invite me to one of your portals, and as soon as you invite me to another one, I'm treated like a regular collaborator, and then you pay full price again. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I could see a world in which you would wait, no, that doesn't make sense either, what I was about to say. So I think there's a lot of times, especially on the enterprise level, you would want one particular user might have access to 3 different portals, and it's not always feasible to combine all of your use cases into one base just so that this one external user can interact with all the data that they need to. And you can do that today, but at a cost that doesn't seem right for if you're just like reviewing information and maybe clicking a couple checkboxes. So I'm wondering if that restriction will ever be lifted or adjusted. But otherwise, if you have a pretty straightforward workflow where external collaborators really only need access to one set of interfaces, portals might be like a good option for you.
Yeah.
I think the other important thing to note is that it only works with email accounts that are like domain specific. So you can't use a Gmail account to, like, if you log into Airtable with a Gmail account, you can't create a portal, because they need to be able to verify that the people that you are inviting are not from your same organization, which is another caveat. So you can only invite external users. So that means they cannot have the same domain as you when you're inviting them.
Yeah, I think generally the problem is Airtable treats editors the same if you only have access to the interface versus the base, and that feels like they're missing a global separation there, because that email difference will be more a problem at the team level, which is why I was surprised it's even available at the team level. My first Airtable account was all Gmail based until I finally moved everything to my business email, like on a whim, not even because I needed to do so. So I think that would be, I would like to see portals kind of evolve to be more like, if the person you're inviting only has access to interfaces across the board, well, then they pay this price rather than full editor price.
Absolutely. And even the pricing for portals now is just it's not great, I don't think.
Yeah.
It did not get very good reactions on LinkedIn. People were like
$7 or something per person, but $8 per person.
Yeah.
Well, I think it depends on if it's annual versus monthly, and then but you also have to get a minimum of 15, I think. These numbers are imprecise, but the point is that it's about half the cost of a regular license, but you have to have at least 15. So like if you were trying to invite 10, you're still saving money, but you do feel you're paying more than what you would want to pay regardless. So
Right.
Yeah.
No, I get it. It's a tough challenge. They can't cannibalize themselves by, making it so much cheaper that everybody decides to invite people as external collaborators rather than, what they're already doing. So I get it. It's hard.
Yeah. So yeah, check that out. Portals. You can get that now. Okay. This is one that was new to me today. Sync document content with Google Drive Sync. So they've always had a third party or a data sync. So you could sync files into Airtable from Google Drive. Now it will actually sync the file into an attachment field. So you can actually get the attachments. So then, especially for like the AI component, that's what they talk about here, is then it could actually get access to the attachment, and you could AI process the attachment. So if you have like a Google Doc, it will convert it to a PDF. I'm assuming it says it will be converted to an appropriate file format, so a PDF or a Word doc, something like that. There is a limit, 100 megabytes per file. This will count against your attachment limits in Airtable as well, so you got to be aware of that. But I thought that was interesting. Definitely, my guess is they did this for the AI component to analyze those attachments.
That's exciting, though. I remember being frustrated years ago working with a client, and previously all it synced in was a thumbnail, and it was like teeny tiny, and it just wasn't. And then Google made a change where you couldn't use the URL for that file to embed anymore. It just didn't work. So we were kind of stuck, but now this actually opens up a door.
Yeah, interesting. Cool. So that's a cool one. Last one, multi-level drop-down filtering and interface designer. New list layout pages now have a page-level hierarchy, allowing users to create drop-down filters on any table within the hierarchy.
I don't understand.
This picture is misleading. So what we're looking at was always there when you're editing a list in interfaces. What I think they're saying is end user level filtering on the page itself, but I haven't seen that.
I haven't either, and I don't understand the use of the word drop down filter. It's to me is extremely misleading. It's like when I think drop down filter, I think of the actual drop down filters that you can put on an interface page. This is not that. This is only a back end filter. I don't understand why they just threw the word drop down in there. Like, I got really excited when I read that. I was like, oh my gosh, can we actually show to the user drop downs from any level of that table? That would be so cool. But I don't know.
So I was waiting for more time to pass. I saw this appear on the What's New page, and I was like, well, surely after some time I'll understand what it is. Nope.
No.
I mean, I don't even see it as a front end option either. I'm very confused.
Yeah. So maybe there's more to come here. All right. I'm going to do for time's sake, I think I'm going to hold off on these. We could review them next week. We got through all the product updates and news and updates on everything. So more to come. It's been a busy month, and next week we'll catch up on some of these others we didn't get to today. So with that, let's move onto Air. If you are storing your data in Airtable, it's best practice to have it stored outside as well. That's where Onto Air Backups comes in. Keeps your data in sync with Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, or OneDrive, and also backs up your schema information. So check it out, ontoair.com. You can use promo code BuiltOnAir for a discount and start backing up your data today from Airtable. You can also restore back into Airtable as well. And okay, let's learn a little bit about Ashley. Put put you up on the big one. There you go.
Hello, Ashley. How you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course. So typically we start with the age-old question, when did you start using Airtable?
I started using Airtable when I was working at Condé Nast as a post-production manager in 2017. So, yeah.
It's quite some time. So right now I'm using Airtable in the sort of media space as well. So always interesting for me to hear how other people are using Airtable for like media and content creation and things like that.
That is exactly how I learned most of Airtable, and then what I am really good at and why I keep getting hired is being able to take very complex production systems that are making content for many brands and many content creators, and create a system that is able to streamline and track the progress of production and then the progress of distribution for social content, broadcast, and streaming. But that's how I got into Airtable.
When you were first using it, was it something like you started working and people were in a different system and you're like, things are all over the place? Or were they already using Airtable and you were like, oh, this is actually something I can get used to?
Yeah, shout out to Shane Hoffman, who is the creator of Condé Nast's massive Airtable system. He didn't teach me necessarily, but his system that he built is what I used, and I just really liked it. It's clicked really well in my brain.
So was it something like, were you there, I guess, at the time where it was already like a full-fledged system, or was stuff still changing while like you were first getting started? Because Airtable, as you know, is very flexible, and that tends to lead to like a project being built and then iterated over time.
For sure. Every media company uses a different content management system for the production team to say they've got a pitch for a video, or they've got a publicity run with a couple movies that are being promoted. And Airtable was created to track the deliverables. So it was always growing and being iterated upon as the CMS that they were using was lacking or getting updated and not really working. And the API connections needed to not only receive that information from the CMS, but also receive the information from the distribution sources. So like, what does the engagement numbers look like? How many likes, how many views? And that is just an ever-changing constant increase, hopefully, and as those numbers go up. And multiple teams were all using Airtable. So it was such a huge base of multiple bases. And every year or so, we needed to archive a base because we've reached a limit. And then the 2020 base was built, or 2021 base.
Yeah. So 2017 is before a lot of like major features for Airtable were created. So that's, if I'm not mistaken, that's definitely before interfaces. It's before syncing as like a real thing, versus like hacky solutions we all had to do. I think it might be before extensions. So you've seen quite a bit of change from when you started with Airtable to what Airtable can do today. What do you think has been your favorite sort of addition or thing that was like the most game changer like thing to help organize so many like systems all in one place?
When I first started using it only a few people could fully understand what Airtable, how to use it, its functionality and its capabilities, and just the magic of like what we could do with it, because everyone has a different brain, and I'm looking at my screen because Airtable is to my left. There's only so many people who step into a table and are like, okay, yeah, I get this. And there's some people who are like completely overwhelmed. Interfaces, I would say, was the biggest game changer. Just being able to limit the amount of information someone sees and give them a very clear place of enter this information right here, and then everything else will magically happen. Being able to hide the sausage creation process is important.
Yeah, I think I would probably have to agree, especially now that I'm in kind of an enterprise environment where, like you're saying, before I was working with teams of like 5 or so people, and it's easier to explain to 5 or so people, here's your grid view, like this is the most important view, this one helps with notifications and whatnot. When you have that many people, it's much easier to say, go to this page, and you know how this page has 3 things on it? Fill in those 3 things and you're good.
Yeah, basically. And it starts to, the people who are can become experts or are experts at Airtable start to become like a little bit of a superhero, because no one knows what's happening in the back end for what we built this interface to do. Yeah, that's a cool little badge to wear.
It is. I think it's always fun to when you finally really get something, like you said, when something clicks, you're like, I can do anything now. And building an Airtable, sometimes it often gives me that feeling.
The dopamine hit? Absolutely.
Yeah. I can build anything.
Yeah.
So speaking of building anything, you have a base that you are going to show to us.
I do. Pivoting, I could try to share my screen. And I want to give the context that this has nothing to do with media production, actually.
Yeah.
This was a distinct pleasure that I am so honored I got to work on. I built basically something what Qualtrics could sort of kind of do, but Airtable was so much better for its ability to have linked relationships. Let's see if I can share my screen. Yes.
Yeah, let me. Oh, hold on. They changed it. Okay, now you're live.
Okay, awesome. So I do want to give a little context about the research study and the making or what it was testing, because that context is going to help understand how I built the base. So Tom Roschert worked with Tim Schreiber and Tammy Pfeiffer to develop the Dignity Index, which is a way of scoring speech on a 8-point index scale. Speech is scored from contempt to dignity. So 1 is the most contemptuous you can be, feeling justified in calling for the violence or the death of someone else. And you rise up the scale closer and closer to dignity. So 2 is those people are evil and they're going to ruin us. It's us or them. 3 is those are bad people. They've got terrible character. It's us versus them. 4 is that beginning point of separation. You know, those people over there, they're just different. 5 is when you start speaking with dignity. You are sticking just with facts, actions, and outcomes. You're not extending your hand over to find commonality like you are at the level 6. At level 7, you're willing to admit that you could be wrong, and you're really looking to find that common value. And 8 is the highest form of dignity, where you are defending the dignity of someone your side is demonizing even. So we conducted a study over the course of the 2024 election. Every week, 80 panelists, and this table was where I collected all of the information about the panelists. They're in different demographic information, their political leanings. We used More in Common's way of understanding a political leaning based on their hidden tribe segmentation. That was how we based all of our understanding of if a liberal or a conservative felt one way or another about a passage. So every week we had a team of college students submitting something that was said in the news lately by a politician, by a public figure, that could be scored on the Dignity Index. That was collected via forms for Airtable's interface, a very simple form of just collect the metadata and tell me where it came from, who said it, what's the URL link. Then every top of the week, I met with my colleagues and we went through every quote or passage is how we like to call it, to review if this one was scoreable, two was something that we wanted to provide our panelists for review. As we talked, we also gave a guess of what we thought it would be scored as and assigned it to the week. So here you see all the work we did, selecting a specific passage for the panelists to review. They never reviewed more than 8. It was usually between 6 and 8, and also always as bipartisan as possible. So as many conservatives speaking with dignity as liberals speaking with dignity. Then I used Fill Out, which love their program, to pull the information from that Airtable record with the passage to present to the panelists in this specific form. They got to see the passage, who said it, the context of what they said, and chose a score level. This was one of my favorite parts, is our Tom spent the time writing the qualities of each score level. And I put all of those qualities into Airtable for the panelists to do a text-based matching approach. So from within this passage here, which quality on the scale matches it? And that helped the panelists determine what score. And it created some really, really rich data, qualitative and quantitative data, to understand how our panelists were reading and understanding a passage. So they could choose anything. It didn't have to be the exact number. In fact, I wanted that. Then they had to paste the part of the passage that matched that quality. And then there was open-ended feedback, and also unrequired, how much time did it take to complete. A huge success of the research study was that though the feedback was not required, over 50% of all scores received feedback. And the panelists were telling me life stories even, and opinions on who the speaker was and how they were surprised they spoke with dignity. It's really, really rich, this data we collected. Okay, so the panelists had about 48 hours to submit all their scores. After they submitted scores, we would analyze and review them. So I built an interface that facilitates that analyzing. Something like this. So this Mike Johnson quote here, we got to see, oh, this one's interesting. So the panelists, each of these is a score level. The colors you can assume are the red is conservative, blue is liberal, purple is moderate, gray is someone who just doesn't have a political affiliation. They are not really politically leaning in any capacity. So here we see the panelists almost had a bimodal score of 5 and 7, a couple over here 8, and you see that it's not really leaning, like very slightly leaning liberals, choosing a contempt score of 4 or 3. But after doing this study, I can say like the winning and top line is 92% of all the scores agreed on dignity or contempt broadly. So that means that conservatives and liberals can agree, which is fabulous. And then this is what I meant about the richness of the data. So though we have a bimodal score of these 5s and these 7, you see here that more panelists agreed on the quality. I'm willing to take criticism from my own side and can take the pain of being criticized, making me kind of assess that the panelists who scored it a 5 weren't really sure what quality to give it. They weren't really sure about their score, while those that chose a 7 were like, it's clearly this quality. I broke out, like, if I wanted to compare the conservatives and the liberals, and if I just wanted to be able to see the moderates over here. And then the rich feedback data, I can step in and really zone in on what one person said. And I've limited this so you can't see any of their demographics, but I have a notable score, and then I also had an outlier score box that I would keep track of someone who was on the extreme side of the other side of the scale. So yeah, there's so many other parts of this, because it's now just not only the base we did the research in, but also the team's database of passages that they use in presentations when they're speaking. We developed a daily dignity game where you can score passages yourself, and this is also the repository where I keep all that data, and where the team schedules it out for the game. But yeah, this is what I've built.
This is so cool.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a pretty impressive dashboard. Airtable, don't get rid of the blank layout.
Yeah.
Oh God, please don't. No.
Yeah. There are certain things, certain aspects of like the newer layouts that are great, but there's not really a replacement quite yet for the blank layout, which is what we were just looking at, where you could have information being pulled from multiple sources right next to each other rather than forced to kind of be on top, and then drilling into one record, right? We're looking at one passage and then all of the data related to it, and have that affect everything on the page rather than just, the whatever group you're currently looking at. So a very impressive, I think, layout. It all seemed to make sense to me, like on first glance, of not having ever seen this information before. It seemed very intuitive of like, yeah, these are the metrics I would suspect I would want to look at based on, the content that was collected.
Something too about the way Qualtrics works that was not going to work for analyzing this data is the information would all be on one row and then just keep going and going and going and going and going.
Yeah.
And as I was talking with the Qualtrics team, my mind was kind of getting a headache, thinking like, how then can I pull all the information together for every conservative that spoke at a score level of 2 and all of the conservative panelists that were scoring that? There would be no way without the linked relationships that Airtable provides. So a lot cheaper.
I love that. Have you published that data anywhere? Like, I would love to just like look at it. I think it's so cool.
It's fascinating. I've published loose analysis on the Dignity Index's website, the National Citizens Panel, which I can link out to, but I'm working with both University of Utah and the Kim Gardner Institute on one white paper, and Berkeley on another white paper about the data I collected. So it's in the
very, very cool.
Very cool, Ashley. And is this your full-time, or are you a consultant? Are you open, or what's your situation now?
I consult for the Dignity Index, and I am full-time at the News Revenue Hub developing their advertising network, where also another big Airtable project. All these local and nonprofit national news organizations, setting them up with advertising at a level of corporate sustainability. So if your team doesn't have ad units yet on your website or in your newsletters, we're able to provide that. So that's a huge Airtable project too.
Very cool. Awesome. Thank you for showing that. let's move on. If you are not in our community, there's amazing people in there like Ashley and all of us. Join us at builtonair.com/join. That will get you into our free community. Sign up for our newsletter. Also, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So we would love to meet you. And if you want to be a guest on our show, we'd love to have you on as well. So join us at builtonair.com. With that, let's end with interfaces. One of the new features of number coloring with Alli. They changed how they do this. There we go.
Awesome. All right. This is a feature I'm super excited about, and it's been requested since day one, like before interfaces were a thing as well. It's great. It's not as great as I think it could be, but it just was released, and I'm sure they will make changes and improvements as they go, or I hope. So what we can do is in interfaces only, so not in the data layer, but you can in a list view or a grid view only, and only for number fields. Lots of caveats here. You can change the color that that number is displayed as. And there's a few different caveats, like I just said, and also some differences between the list and the grid. So let's start with the list. If you click on your list and go into your little side panel here to configure it, under the appearance section, you're going to see a new option here called field text color. If we open that up, and I've got multiple layers of hierarchy in my list view, so you pay attention to what level you're on here. You can change that as well and set it for all of them. So let's start with months, which is going to be just the smallest level there. I'm going to click add field, and you'll notice it only gives me the numbers as available options here. So let's go with percent change here. So this is basically, I demoed this base before we went on our last season break, where we've got like a delta being calculated between this month and the month that came the year prior. So December 2024 versus December 2023. If we want to, we can pick that field for change and then hit the little gear. And you'll be very familiar with this color screen. I'm sure it's very similar to what you see in, when you're using the coloring for conditions for any layout in the data layer, as well as like progress bars, all sorts of other things. But we really only have one option, which is you can say where the field you chose is any numerical operator here. So equal to, not equal to, less than, greater than, etc. And then you have to enter a static value. So if we want to say, the change is greater than 0%, and I want that to be green, then I could duplicate that. And then I could say if it's less than 0%, I want it to be red. And you can see that's only happening on that month's level there. And then you could also set a default color, which in my case, I would actually want it to be just black if it were 0%. So I'm not going to set a default because it's already black. I could then go through and apply that same thing to all my levels and do some things around that, but pretty cool. I'm happy with that. But what I really think is missing is the ability to apply conditions to any field, not just numbers. And I would love to be able to say, color percent change where any of these conditions are true, not just the number is less than or greater than a static value. I would love to be if this value says down, I want this to be red, or whatever it might be. I think that would make it a lot more flexible. Mm-hmm. So missing that, I think, but
there is precedent elsewhere in the product for that.
Right.
There's lookups, rollups, and counts have the conditional filtering apply. That's analogous to color by up or down, and then why not color by any field? I could see not coloring an attachment field. It's always attachment as the exception to the rule. I could see lookups. Lookups are fairly complicated. I could see not being able to color those, although I would like it. I can understand why not. But the other ones, why not plain text? I can't do is empty.
Exactly.
Come on now.
Like, it's silly. And I'm like, I would love to be able to say, like, okay, if it's greater than 0 and also greater than this other field over here that's hidden, like, or like be able to compare it to something, to like, instead of just entering in a static value, like my goals might change year over year, and I want it to only be green if it's above a certain number for just that month or whatever it is. There's a lot more flexibility that I think could be added. But I'm still excited. Super cool to be able to do that. And then to show an even cooler thing. Well, I don't know about even cooler, but there's something I do really like about the list. I mean, the grid options. Let's throw in a grid. If I go change this, and I want to show a grid. Now, if we add, I just hate the way the grid looks. Like, there's so many things I like about the grid. Like, I love the summary bar, and I want to be able to put that in list layouts, but I digress. The coloring in grid layouts actually colors the entire cell, which I find very nice. But it's kind of weird that they limit the colors, and I mean, I don't know, but
yeah.
Is that the full list of colors even? Like full list of hues? I think it's not.
It's definitely weird. There's chosen different colors allowed in different places, and I don't get it.
It sounds like it's the MVP.
Yes.
I think we've said before, maybe not on this show, but certainly in Slack, that whenever Airtable releases a new feature, it's 80% done, and then then they just start freestyling afterwards.
Exactly, right? It's like I like this, but I would love to be able to say, you know, you had mentioned outliers in your presentation before this. I would love to be like, only highlight the outliers, and that you can only really figure out if it's an outlier if you have a formulaic option, or like you've checked a box. Like, if this box is checked, make this red. Like, I would love to be able to do that. But still, it's a step in the right direction, and I'm excited about it. I think this looks very nice. Yeah.
I mean, that feature there, like, people wanted that on the data layer from day one, you know, because that's very common in Excel.
Exactly. Yeah. Conditional coloring.
Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Awesome. Well, that concludes today's show. Ashley, thank you for joining us. If people want to connect with you, is there an easy way to reach out to you?
LinkedIn. That's the only place you'll find me.
Okay. We'll get an update from you down the road and see what you're up to. So thank you for coming on. And thank you all for joining. We'll be back for episode 2 next week. See you all then. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out our sponsor, OntoAir Backups, automated backups for Airtable. We'll see you next time on the Built on Air podcast.